Good evening and welcome to Unfiltered. I'm Sizwe Mpofu Walsh. The Northwest Province has been an epicenter for misgovernance, whether we talk about crises of service delivery or municipal finances. After a new ANC conference last year, a new administration has vowed to sweep clean that province and upgrade its services so that the people of the Northwest can finally taste the fruits of freedom. Is there enough political will to turn the ship of the Northwest around, or are we just seeing more of the same? That's our question for tonight, and we're joined by MEC for Cooperative Governance, Mr. Nono Maloi. We'll also have some insights from political analysts within the province a little later in the show, and we'll be getting some insights from Mr. Arthur Shopola to deepen our analysis. Remember to join us on social media at SABC Unfiltered, and we'll endeavor to take some of your comments and place them before our guest if we can. Before we dive into the conversation and our interview for tonight, let's take a look at the scene setter to get some context.
Bad roads riddled with potholes, sewage spillages, lack of water, and people drawing it from rivers and wells. The residents have no hope that their living conditions will change anytime soon.
The shortage is caused mostly by poor management and poor maintenance of pipes.
Our sewage is not even running because there is not even people working there.
Unfortunately, they are there to represent their own jacket for salaries. They don't have the love of this area at heart. They don't care about us.
The Northwest Province, with 8 municipalities currently under administration and over 3 billion rands in wasteful expenditure, is one of the 3 worst performers in the country, with none of its 22 municipalities receiving clean audits in the past 5 years, according to the Auditor General's report. This is despite spending millions of rands on consultants.
The AG has been reporting the emerging issue of consultocratic managerialism in the local government, whereby public managers would, erode the culture of public accountability by bringing in a lot of consultants. And when you look at their performance, they're not really yielding positive results.
Political infighting, corruption, the general lack of skilled administrators, and poor governance are some of the reasons behind the chaotic state of municipalities. In the Ditsobota municipality, one of the most unstable in the country with disruptive coalition arrangements, has seen the appointment of 2 mayors, 2 speakers, and 2 municipal managers from the ANC's warring factions in 2022. The instability and lack of service delivery saw the threats by dairy producer Clover threatening to relocate from Ditsobotla to eThekwini. The municipality's workers have not been paid in the past 2 months, and tensions have been marked by violence among warring factions. Many more companies in other municipalities in the province have raised alarm due to lack of service delivery, posing a threat to the already high unemployment levels, currently at 52%. In the same vein, Madibeng, also in the Northwest Province, is another ailing municipality which has received disclaimer opinions for 7 years in a row.
There hasn't been a closeout report or any municipality that has been previously placed under financial recovery, mandatory financial recovery, that has been elevated out of the financial crisis.
But is there political will to turn around the ailing municipalities in the Northwest Province? Andrew Mokhatle, Unfiltered, SABC News.
Welcome back to Unfiltered. Is there a crisis of governance in the Northwest Province? That's our conversation for this evening. And as mentioned, we're in conversation with MEC for Cooperative Governance, Mr. Nono Maloi. Mr. Maloi, thank you so much for joining us on Unfiltered.
No, thank you very much for having me, and good evening to your viewers as well.
Mr. Malloy, you sit in an interesting position at the center of service delivery and various arms of governance in COGTA, where you serve as the MEC, but also chair of the province. So there's no better person to speak to about Northwest and its governance. Is the province in a governance crisis?
We are not in a governance crisis. There are challenges in the province. Like in any other province, you'll always find the challenges, and we have spoken about these challenges previously, that particularly at a local government level, where our people are supposed to get the necessary service delivery that they need. But we have intervened, and we have communicated as to how are we intervening to turn the situation around.
When you say there's no crisis, the people of Northwest seem to be suffering under particular burdens, and we're talking about poor black South Africans who have not yet tasted the fruits of freedom. There is a crisis, isn't there? Because other provinces, yes, have had their fair share of challenges, but when you look at the Auditor General's reports, for example, only Limpopo ranks worse than the Northwest in terms of its financial governance. So this is not comparable to all other provinces. There's a particular problem in the Northwest that is hampering the lives of its residents, from potholes to the service delivery of electricity to road infrastructure to health infrastructure. It's simply not being delivered, is it?
No, I must indicate that in 1994, we did attain our freedom in South Africa, and the people of the Northwest, like the people of this country, did enjoy the fruits of freedom, and a lot of things were done for the first time since the Nationalist Party was in government and so on. We were able to provide our people with housing. We were able to provide our people with clean drinking water. We were able to provide our people with electricity. We were able to provide our people with other basic needs. But we agree with everybody that our infrastructure, not only in the Northwest, but in the country, is aging. But at the same time, some of us were sleeping on duty because we are supposed to have ensured that there is maintenance of that infrastructure, which we are talking about. Our roads are in a bad state, and we are intervening decisively. You might have realized that when the MEC for Public Works was delivering his budget vote, he did indicate that quite a number of roads in the Northwest we are intervening, and we are intervening decisively. On challenges of water, working together with the Minister of Water and Sanitation and all other relevant departments through the DDM model, we are intervening in the province to provide water to our people. It has not been an easy task, but we are getting there. On the issue of houses, we are also intervening because you might be knowing that for the past 10 years or so, some of the housing units were not completed in the Northwest province and so on. So we are intervening, and we are intervening decisively. As I speak to you, since last week, I've been going to each and every area in the Northwest, assessing the extent of the challenges that we have, and we have been intervening, and we've been intervening immediately.
Well,
so we think that we are getting there.
Mr. Malloy,
and I did indicate
forgive
previously.
me for interjecting, but can I come in here, because I hear you. Well, let's start on the fruits of freedom. Look, I fully concede and accept and agree with you on the fact that 1994 was an important moment, but the promise was more than just voting. The promise was services would be delivered to the people, people's lives would improve, and especially the poor black majority's life would improve. And we just haven't seen that under various administrations, under the ANC government. But when you say you've intervened decisively, well, The Premier of the province, Mr. Mape, confirmed under questioning recently that the province had underspent its budget by at least 400 million rands. At least. It could be as much as $1 billion. You said you were intervening decisively on health, a 200 million underspend. So how can you be intervening decisively on the one hand, but failing to spend the crucial life-giving money and having to send it back on the other hand?
Yeah, what I was saying is that we have two major challenges. Our challenges, particularly at the local government, are both at the political level and administrative level. What we have now done to ensure that our political heads at the local level get the necessary training, we've been training them in order for them to understand when we talk about the oversight role. What is it that we are talking about? How are they supposed to play this role and so on? We have also trained our what committees to be able to do this exercise. At an administrative level, I did indicate that firstly, in the majority of our municipalities, just before December last year, senior positions were vacant, and we issued a memo saying to all our municipalities that all those senior positions must be filled, and they are doing so. But where senior positions are filled, you also have a problem of skills and so on. We have decided that it will be necessary that we must do what we call the skills and the qualifications audit. We have interacted with all our municipalities, and we have said to them, these are the challenges that we are facing as a province. We are not spending money, we are not spending grants and so on because there is no capacity. And we need to start building this capacity. And all of them, they've agreed that we must do that exercise. From the 1st of July, a team will be in all these municipalities doing their skills and qualifications audit. But we have also interacted with the University of the Northwest. We have said to them, we have a lot of postgraduates who are sitting there, who have all the skills and so on. We would want to use their skills in these different municipalities. And I'm happy to announce that the university has made available over 700 postgraduates in order for us to deploy them to different municipalities to go and assist in those municipalities. Next week, on the 22nd of this month, we will be taking the first intake, which is 100 of those graduates, and we'll be deploying them to these different municipalities. And I can tell you, come the next financial year, which is next year in July, the majority of these municipalities will be out of the disclaimer and so on and so forth. There will be quite an improvement.
Right.
It is not going to be an easy task. It's going to be a difficult task.
Malloy, sorry to cut you
for that challenge.
Let's leave it there for the moment because we're going to go to a break, but we'll certainly come back to that. Stay with us on Unfiltered. We're in conversation with Cooperative Governance MEC, Mr. Nono Malloy, and we're talking about the Northwest municipality and whether it's suffering from a crisis of governance. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Unfiltered. We're inquiring into whether the Northwest is suffering from a crisis of governance, or whether, in fact, there is sufficient political will to extricate that beleaguered province from its governmental challenges. And we're in conversation with MEC for Cooperative Governance, Mr. Nono Malloy. Remember to join us on social media and use the hashtag @SABC Unfiltered. Mr. Malloy, thank you again for joining us. And we were just discussing whether the promises that you have been making are credible. Can I also put it to you, though, that you said all the municipalities that are currently under administration by July next year will be out of that position. It's hard to believe those promises when, at least in terms of underspending, we had the same problem last year that I mentioned this year. So this year we had underspending of at least 400 million, but the year before that, 271 million of underspending on housing, 440 million underspending on transport. So it seems that the promises keep getting renewed and repeated, but the situation on the ground never changes. Why should anyone therefore believe that the change will come when they haven't seen those changes yet?
Like I said, we have identified what is the problem. We now know what is the problem. We have diagnosed it. And we have said the Department of Cooperative Governance will not succeed on its own to resolve these problems. We have said all of us, all relevant departments, Department of Finance, Department of Public Works, national departments, and so on, through the district development model. We need to be coming together and saying these are the challenges and we need to resolve these challenges. Now, all of us, we are on top of the situation and we are dealing with this situation decisively. I just made an example about how we are dealing with water challenges. As we speak, we have a steering committee which is chaired by the Minister and the Premier in the Northwest Province. And you can go to any area, you will see that people are on the ground attending to challenges of water. And I've just said to you that, for an example, in public works, the MEC for Public Works did announce about the roads today. As I'm speaking to you, I'm from different villages. There are people who are busy fixing roads and doing all sorts of things. On a weekly basis, myself, the Premier, the MEC for Finance, we are meeting on a weekly basis to assess as to whether all the departments are doing what is expected of them in order to spend this money and to spend it for what it is intended for. And I'm satisfied that we are getting there. I'm satisfied that everybody, his or her hands are on deck, and all of us, we are going to spend this money. We'll never have this situation again. So I'm satisfied. I know that you might not believe, or somebody might not believe.
Can I ask you what satisfies you? Can I ask you what satisfies you in terms of tangible governmental achievements that you can speak to? Because diagnosing the problem is one thing, and holding meetings with important stakeholders is another. But what people on the ground want is tangible and obvious results. Have there been any of those that you can speak to?
Yeah, let me repeat. Firstly, I said as we speak, you can go to some of the areas in the Northwest. Contractors are on site, doing what is expected of them, fixing our roads. If
How many roads have been fixed?
Municipalities where there were potholes, I was in Matlosana this past Tuesday. In Matlosana, they are patching potholes. I was in Tlokwe. Material has been delivered. They are patching potholes. I was in Ventersdorp. Work is being done on a daily basis. Today, I was in Mahikeng. We visited projects that are unfinished and so on.
Mr. Maloy,
we immediately introduced new contractors.
Can I ask you how many, to simply say these things are happening, do we have the data on how many potholes have been patched, how many roads have been fixed, how many people have got access to water that didn't have access to water?
Are you sure that you want me to give you the number of potholes that are being patched? There are just too many potholes, and those potholes are being patched. And I've not been on the ground to count how many potholes are being patched and so on, but work is being done on the ground. I've just said to you now that today I'm from different villages. Contractors are on site fixing roads. I've just said to you now, I'm from different areas where housing projects were not complete. We have introduced new contractors. They are on site doing their work. I've just said to you now, if you go to different areas, whether it's Ramotseremwilo, whether it's in Tlhabane and so on, Magali's Water, working together with ourselves and so on, we are on the ground attending to challenges of water and so on. So we are all over. If you go to Vryburg Taung, the 3-kilometer pipeline, which was not complete, is almost complete. Our people are now going to get more than enough water. If you go to Karisano Molopo, boreholes there were not working. the district working together with us. We have also involved Coca-Cola. We are in that area fixing those boreholes to ensure that they are working. If you go to Moses Kotane as we speak, where there were challenges of water, 99% of those challenges have been attended to. Water reservoirs that were not working, they are now working. New reservoirs, we have opened those reservoirs. Our people are getting water. So you can go anywhere. We are busy, we are on the ground, we are doing work. We have turned this province into a construction area. But unfortunately, I can't give you the number of potholes. There are just too many potholes, but contractors are on the ground fixing those potholes as we speak.
Well, I wasn't just asking for the number of potholes. I was just asking for the quantifiable achievements that have been seen. But if those aren't available, I guess it's then your word against the word of some of the people who have complained about really dire living conditions, real difficulties in accessing services, especially at the municipal level. And so the promise that, for example, all of the municipalities under administration will be out of that by July may ring hollow when a place like Madibeng, for example, has had 7 consecutive disclaimers in terms of its the opinions on its finances. And even administration and provincial intervention hasn't worked 7 times in a row. So we're not talking about a new start here. We're talking about problems that have been repeated, in that instance, 7 times.
Caesar, I've said to you, watch the space. The 2023-2024 financial year started in April. And I said people are on the ground. We are making assessments on a quarterly basis. And after each and every EXCO meeting, we'll make pronouncements as to how far are we. Because different departments must report on the work that they are doing and so on. So that work is being done. And I've said to you, Sizwe, that we have identified all these problems in all these different municipalities. We are sending teams. There are teams from the Department of Finance, teams from the Department of COGTA to go and assist those municipalities. I've also said we have involved the University of the Northwest to use postgraduates to go to those municipalities to go and add on the skills that we don't have in those municipalities. I said on Tuesday, on the 22nd of this month, which is next week, the first 100 intake will be introduced to different municipalities. They will be getting into that space. On the 1st of July this year, we are introducing a monitoring system where on a daily basis, we'll know what is happening in each and every municipality. If there is a challenge in that municipality, we'll know immediately and we'll go and intervene immediately. So that system will be operational from the 1st of July this year.
Well, Mr. Malloy, we'll continue the conversation after we come back from the break. We are discussing questions of governance, questions of service delivery, questions of financial management in the Northwest Province, a province that has been flagged in a number of reports as lagging behind other provinces in South Africa when it comes to basic quality of life questions. We'll also be bringing in some analysis from a political analyst based in the province, Mr. Arthur Shobola. So stay with us as we deepen our conversation with Mr. Nono Malloy, MEC for Cooperative Governance in the Northwest. See you after the break. Welcome back to Unfiltered. We're in conversation with MEC for Cooperative Governance in Northwest, Mr. Nono Malloy, and we're diving into that province and asking, is there a crisis of governance unfolding? Has one been unfolding for many a long year? Or is there a newfound political will to better the lives of people? Mr. Malloy, before we went to the break, you were telling us about the plans that the province and other sectors of governance have put in place to improve the lives of people. And you said we should watch the space, but we've been told to watch the space since 1994. Again, we were told by the president to watch the space about 4 or 5 years ago. We can't keep watching the space, can we? I mean, the space is not being filled. The space is staying still. And the question is, at what point do we stop watching the space and start watching the actual progress?
Now, Sizwe, I'm giving you plans with time frames. And once you have a plan with a time frame, you are then able to monitor properly as to whether are we making promises or are we certain about what we are doing. Because I've said, and I want to repeat, that whatever we do, we must use the SMART principle. When we put something on the table, it must be realistic, it must be achievable. But what is important is that it must be time-bound. That is why I'm giving you dates. That on a certain date, this is what we are going to do. On a certain date, this is what we are going to do. You can call me on those dates, by the way. And I'm inviting you on the 22nd of this month. Come to my hearing. I will be there. The Vice Chancellor will be there. Those postgraduates will be there. Affected municipalities will be there. We'll be taking those 100 graduates to those municipalities. It is going to happen. Come on the 1st of July this year. I'm saying to you, we are going to have a system. You can come and test that system with us, where we are going to monitor all these municipalities on a daily basis. And I've said I'm meeting almost every quarter with all the mayors, with all the municipal managers, with all the CFOs, and so on. And I'm getting reports as to whether are they moving or are they not moving. I am on a daily basis on the ground. I'm not sitting in offices. I'm on the ground on a daily basis to monitor myself as to whether this work is being done, and if it is not done, we are intervening immediately. So we are not telling you stories. We are telling you about things that are happening. I just told you earlier on that today I visited a number of villages here in Mahikeng. Public Works, together with appointed contractors, are on the ground fixing roads. I told you about Matlosana, I told you about the JB Max and so on. So we are doing this work. So it is not a story, it is something that we are doing practically on the ground.
Let's bring in a perspective from an expert in public administration within the province, Mr. Arthur Shopola. Mr. Shopola, thank you for joining us. In your view, is the province undergoing a governance crisis, or do you think there has been a genuine turnaround in public administration?
Good evening, Sizwe. I lost a larger part of that question.
Do you think there's a crisis of governance in the Northwest?
Oh, yes, I think there is a governance crisis, and I heard the MEC, is not in support of that view. But honestly speaking, municipal financial health is an important indicator of good governance. And when you have the AG making, characterizing municipalities of Northwest in such a manner that she did, it tells you, with over 90% of municipalities, that are performing badly, it tells you that there's a crisis of governance. But, I must also acknowledge what the MEC has just said. There is a concoction of problems that are facing municipalities in the Northwest Province. And many of those are, to a larger part, they are structural and human-related challenges. And on the part of the human-related challenges that these municipalities are facing currently, you will agree with my analogy, Caesar, when I say, a bunch of officials that are employed in this province, in these municipalities, they are behaving like a fish that is in the water, and almost believes that the water belongs to it. And they need to remove this culture. It's very dangerous for governance. As a result, they still, if you look at the irregular expenditure, quite alarming for good governance.
Mr. Malloy, how do you respond to that assessment?
No, indeed, there are serious challenges administratively. And that is why I said to you, Sizwe, that we are starting on the 1st of July with the skills and qualifications audit. Because in other municipalities where senior positions are filled, you find that the people who have filled those positions is either they don't have skills, others they don't have the required or relevant academic qualifications to occupy those positions. And that is why we are doing this exercise that we are starting on the 1st of July. So those challenges are there, and we are getting into that space. And I've also said, because we know that you have a lot of graduates out there, we have got the skills, we have got the qualifications and so on. That is why we have decided to talk to the university in order to work together with the university to intervene in these municipalities. So we are making those interventions because we agree that there are those challenges that exist. But I've also said that challenges are not only administrative, by the way, they are as well political. Because some of the political appointees or councillors that we have there are just too many challenges and so on. That is why we have taken them on training. We are training them and so on. Others, they are attending classes with the University of Witwatersrand and so on in order to improve their skills.
Well, can I ask you on the political challenges? Can I ask you on the political challenges? And I appreciate there's a little bit of a lag between us, but on the political challenges, and of course you are the chairperson in the province, relatively newly elected of the ANC, there's also a question about whether the political center is actually holding. There's been massive division in the province, and I think that's no public secret, but also resignations from the MEC, Boitumelo Moila, the HOD, Mr. Mafokane. So I think there's also a question politically at the center of the province whether there is a strong enough and coherent enough ANC that can actually drive any kind of recovery effort. Because at the moment it seems like the governance crisis is compounded by a weak and divided political center.
I'm not sure which barometer are you using to come to a conclusion that we have a weak political center. There is no weak political center. The leadership of the ANC in this province is intact. The leadership of the African National Congress is doing what is expected of it. Like I said, there are challenges. We are talking to a number of comrades that, when you go to a conference is a contested terrain. People will stand for positions and so on. Others will make it, others will not make it. So those who did not make it, they must learn to understand that once conference has pronounced, all of us, we must rally behind the elected leadership. So those are the challenges that we are there and so on. But we are working very hard, by the way, to rebuild, renew, and unify the ANC in the Northwest Province. And I think we are winning in that space. There is this 10% that we are working on and so on. But we think that by the time we finish our term, we would have unified the African National Congress in this particular province. We have interacted with branches of the ANC. We are on branches almost every day. This past weekend, we were from a conference of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda of the region. That conference took place. We are now going to Bojanala to have a conference of Bojanala. But we are also intervening decisively in municipalities, including in the provincial government, where there are challenges. We get in there working together with the Premier and say, let's sort out this problem. Because we want Northwest to be the #1 province in the country. And believe you me, we are getting there.
Mr. Shopola, before we go to the break, what's your assessment of the intersection between political division and public administration as it currently sits in the province? We know we come from quite a long history of divisions in the province. There's new talk that there's unity. What's your view on how that bears on the lives of people in the Northwest today?
Thank you, Sizwe. My assessment is that a political process in the context of our state should result in what I would say service delivery. And when you have such political processes resulting in what we are seeing today in Northwest Province, you cannot really say with confidence that what the MEC is saying will really see a day. You see, so if there is that unity that they are pushing politically, it should actually tend to benefit the public. How will the public benefit? The public should benefit through service delivery, concerted effort that the leadership would, from time to time, when deployed in these municipalities, will demonstrate that yes, we are in leadership, we are serving you. You see, so that's why I'm saying it's important that whatever they do politically inside the movement should actually translate into service delivery.
We're in conversation about governance challenges in the Northwest Province and asking whether that province is in a crisis or there is sufficient political will, to overturn serious questions of financial governance and service delivery. When we come back from the break, we're going to look at the question of placing municipalities under administration and the link between provincial and municipal government, especially as it plays out in the Northwest. Don't go anywhere. Join us on social media at SABC Unfiltered, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back to Unfiltered. Is the Northwest in a governance crisis? That's our question for tonight, and we're speaking to senior government leaders and also getting insights from public administration experts. But first, let's go to your tweets and see what you've been saying in response to this conversation. And let's start with Julius, who says, "Hi, Sizwe. I don't think so, because the same leadership of Northwest are involved in corruption, allocating tenders to their friends and family members so that they can't control them while doing their job, so raising the question of corruption there. Motusi says, Rustenburg has been going down every year. Consultants and tenderpreneurs are having a ball with our monies. Roads, water and sanitation, crime and corruption are not being attended to. Municipal officials and councillors are getting paid for doing nothing." And let's go to our final tweet. Future Assets says, "Northwest is the perfect symbol of a failing state. What more evidence do we need? How many comrades are waiting to eat? No political will until all is finished. All I hear from the Northwest MEC is rhetoric." Mr. Malloy, 3 tweets there, particularly speaking to corruption, another one speaking to the situation in Rustenburg, and the other speaking to a lack of faith in any changes. Your response to those tweets?
No, we took a decision as the African National Congress that corruption is a cancer that we must deal with as quickly as possible. If we don't do so, it's going to spread, and once it spreads, it will be difficult for us to contain it. So we are dealing with issues of corruption, and we would want to encourage our people out there, if they know of any corrupt act or if they know of any politician, whether in the province, at the local municipality, who is involved in corrupt activities, such individuals must be reported immediately to the law enforcement agencies.
What steps have you taken in the province?
Passionate about the Premier is also passionate about this issue. That's why in all the municipalities, We are having sections that deals with corruption in all the municipalities as we speak.
But
We
what
are also
specific
ensuring
steps have been
that they
taken
do what is
against
expected of
corruption?
them. But
Have
there's
any
problem.
senior
There's
figures
problem.
been held accountable for corruption? Have there been any arrests? Have there been any resignations or even firings for corruption? Have there been any attempts? Because, of course, yes, members of the public can identify corruption, but you hold the power in the province politically to deal decisively with corruption.
Yeah, Sizwe, you'll agree with me that I'm not part of the law enforcement agencies. You have the Hawks, you have SABC, you have NPA, and so on, who are supposed to ensure that when cases are reported, they arrest. I can't do that work by arresting people. But like I said, once a matter is reported to us, we'll report it to the nearest police station. Unfortunately, some of these allegations that are made are not before us. That is why I'm calling on the public that please, if you have information, give us that information in order for us to investigate. Once we have investigated, we'll then know as to whether those allegations are true or not true, and then we'll act on those basis. You don't just act against an individual based on an allegation. And what is said on the Twitter there, by the way, you'll agree with me, it's a general statement that says there is corruption and so on, but it is not pointing you to a specific individual in order for us to act against that specific individual.
But of course, you can't personally arrest people, but you do wield political power. And so corruption is not just about law enforcement agencies, although that is important. It's about the political principals who wield that power, disciplining members, removing members from power where corruption has happened. And I think that is within your purview. So has that work taken place, and which people have been held to account under your watch?
Sizwe, I can't act against people if I don't know whether those people have committed any crime and so on. That is why I'm saying if anybody knows about any person who has committed a crime and so on, that person must report.
Are you saying you're not aware of any? Are you saying you're not aware of any corruption in the Northwest?
No, I'm saying allegations are there. Cases have been opened. Other people are appearing before the court of law and so on. You will know about the Airlink cases and so on. Police have acted, the Hawks have acted and so on. I'm saying people must report. Once they report at a political level, we'll be able to act. Law enforcement agencies will be able to act. I can't just act on the basis of a general statement.
Mr. Shopola, your view on questions of corruption and how it relates to public administration within the province. Has everything been done in your view, or is there more that can be done on corruption? Mr. Shopola? The question of corruption.
Can you repeat your question? It keeps breaking from my side.
Sure. The question of corruption in the province. To what extent do you feel that there is a new urgency to deal with corruption? Or to what extent do you feel that corruption is still hampering quality of life and efforts to rebuild the province?
All right. I think I had a bit of your question, and I'm in a position to be able to comment on that. We can go back to the Zondo Commission in terms of the judge's recommendations. He proposed that there should be an agency that specifically looks at corruption matters. But to comment on what the MEC has just mentioned in his capacity as the ANC chairperson, I'm not sure if the ANC has the capacity to investigate corruption, but he keeps on mentioning that people should report this to them and stuff like that. But then we have seen, a deterioration of corruption agencies in South Africa, being accused. The interesting part here is that you will have those corruption combating agencies being accused of corruption themselves. This tells you, Sizwe, that there is just we've reached a crisis point in South Africa whereby we will no longer know where we should go to report this corruption. As for the ANC, I am not sure if they have the capacity to investigate corruption.
Mr. Malloy, can we turn to the question of placing municipalities under administration? And you sit in an interesting position because you're at the interface between the provincial and the municipal regimes of government. Do you think that the Section 193 process, in other words, when municipalities get placed under administration and often functions get placed in the hands of provincial leaders, do you think that is working in the Northwest?
No, I've said it before. I said I'm not convinced that since we instituted Section 139B in different municipalities, we were able to achieve our intended objectives. That is why I've said to my HOD and I've also said to the Premier that we need to ensure that we implement what is on Section 154 of the Constitution, providing the necessary support to our municipalities, legislatively and otherwise. And that is why when I spoke earlier on, I did indicate what interventions are we making. And those interventions are not in terms of Section 139, are in terms of Section 154 of the Constitution. So we are all over, we are providing the necessary support, we are intervening, we are doing everything in our power to ensure that there is stability at a local level. And we are going to win this battle, by the way. We'll never lose it.
In terms of 139 and 154 of the Constitution, the South African Local Government Association has also come out saying that placing municipalities under administration isn't always the right option, and rather strengthening municipal government is often the best option. And there have also been a number of cases recently where the decision to place municipalities under administration have been called into question. Do you think it was then a mistake to go the administration route in the Northwest, where we have 7 to 8 of these municipalities under administration?
No, it was not necessarily a mistake. I think it was
We seem to have lost Mr. Malloy. We'll do our best to bring him back. Mr. Shopola, in the meantime, can I just ask you about Section 154 of the Constitution, the Section 139 process by which municipalities get placed under administration, and whether you think that has been a wise decision in the Northwest with many municipalities under administration now, or whether you think the process of placing municipalities under administration was a mistake in hindsight and efforts should have been made to strengthen those municipalities alternatively.
All right. Thank you, Sizwe. If I have captured your question correctly, I think you are asking whether the provincial interventions to these municipalities have been, bearing some fruits.
That's it.
I don't think. Yes, I don't think so, Sizwe, because, and this is a countrywide phenomenon. There is a history of provincial interventions in this country, and most of them have not yielded any positive results. And this, to some extent, demonstrates that there are structural challenges that they are not addressing. There are also, like I said in the beginning, when you asked me a question, there are also human-related issues that they are failing to address. Take, for an example, when they are saying, the province is saying we are intervening, when in actual fact, most of provincial departments are also suffering the same problems, like they've been put under administration for quite some time now. And then, it's like getting a sick person to deal with another sick person, you see. So there are issues, like the president said in his letter on the 5th of this month, to say local government is a national responsibility. I think now is the time that the national government must then take a deep focus on local government, because provincial administrations, like in Northwest, they have been failing. Rather, they've been, giving us rhetorics.
Mr. Malloy, your concluding thoughts, we're sadly running out of time, but your final thoughts going forward with the province and plans to extricate the province from some of these challenges.
No, thanks, Sizwe. We are getting all our municipalities out of the red. And we are on the ground. And come the end of the next financial year, the majority of these municipalities will be out of the red. We are working on this thing on a daily basis, and I'm happy and quite excited that other stakeholders are on board. They want to play part, particularly the University of the Northwest. They've said, here we are. We are with you, MEC. We are going to assist. We are going to make sure that we get things right in the Northwest Province. And we are on the right track. Like I said, watch the space. In the next quarter, I will be reporting. I'm going to invite you. I will be talking about municipalities again, what is happening in each and every municipality, where there are challenges. We'll tell you what are those challenges and how are we intervening to fix those particular challenges. People must not lose hope. We are getting there. We are winning this battle. We are almost done.
Thanks, MEC, and I'm glad to hear it's a date for next year. So we'll see you back on Unfiltered then. Thank you for joining us. We always appreciate public officials fielding the questions. Mr. Shopola, thank you for your insights too. We appreciate them. There's a poll that we'd like to end off with. You've been engaging on social media on that poll. We asked, is there political will to fix Northwest municipalities? 11% think yes, 88% think no. Thank you for joining us again on Unfiltered, the show that's got the nation talking. We look forward to your joining us on the next installment. We'll see you on Thursday night. Good evening.
Coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios, and this is the view of Johannesburg. The sun has set. Quite a historic, picture that you are seeing. There's so many buildings that hold a whole lot of memories for a lot of people, but it's nice to see Johannesburg well lit. There is no load shedding, so we do have power. Quite interesting to see Johannesburg well lit. A lot of people would have thought by now, Iman, that we may have seen some lights kind of dip, but we have lights.
Normally we have to guess what the silhouettes are. We'll guess that is the tower and that is Ponty City. But tonight everything beautifully and perfectly illuminated for us, and we hope that everyone inside the city is embraced in a safe hug.
Do you not wish that we were broadcasting from outside? I know it's cold, but just look at how beautiful it is.
Yeah, I would love it. We should advocate for a helicopter.
hint. And look at the traffic still.
That's on the M1 in both directions, our double carriageway, one going all the way to the south, the other going to the north in Pretoria. And absolutely spectacular. This will always remain a breathtaking city.